Hey, fifth grade. I am here to talk to you about finding the part of a whole. This is basically the opposite of what we did with comparing. With comparing, we were making division problems. Today, when you're comparing, you take the lesser number and you put it over the bigger number and you make a fraction and then you reduce it if necessary. I'll show you what I mean. So here is our first one that we're going to try together. $10 is what part of $50? $10 is what part of $50? So you just take 10, because that's the lesser of the two numbers, and you put it over 50, and then you reduce it. And we know when there's zeros, so our answer would have been 1/5. So now we know that $10 is 1/5 of $50. Let me make sure that's actually on the video. Make sure you guys can see that whole thing. Yeah, you can. Okay. Next. 8 inches is what part of 1 foot? Now this is where thinking comes in. I can't just say, oh, I'm going to take 8 and put it over 1 or 1 and put it over 8 and make a fraction out of it, because I see that we're comparing two different things and we can't do that. Okay, so this is inches and this is feet. So right away I know I have to change something. So the easiest thing to change would be the 1 foot, change it to inches. Then I can find out what part it is. So I'm changing, so I have 8 inches is what part of 12 inches. You just change it real quick. It's like an extra step. So now that I have 8 inches is what part of 12 inches, I'm going to make a fraction. I just take 8 over 12, and then I reduce it. Divide by 4 on top and bottom. And 2/3 would be my final answer. So 8 inches is 2/3 of a foot. Okay? Here's another one we're going to have to think before we just start making fractions. This says 6 hours is what part of 2 days? So here I have hours and days. That doesn't work. I have to have them both in the same. So 6 hours is what part of, let's change this to hours. How many hours are in a day? 24. So how many hours would be in 2 days? 48. So 48 hours. Okay, now that I have them both in hours, now I can do the fraction. So 6 hours is what part of 48 hours? 6 over 48. And then reduce it. Divide by 6 on top and bottom, and that's 1/8. So 6 hours is 1/8 of 2 days. Okay? Pretty simple. Of course, the examples they give you are sometimes with smaller numbers. In your book, they might give you some bigger numbers. That's okay. Just use your divisibility rule. So when you make your fractions, use your divisibility rules to divide. If you get something that can still be divided again, do it again until it's completely reduced, okay? And then I just want to do one quick review with you on what we talked about in the last video, which was the comparing. So don't get confused between finding a fractional part of something and comparing two things, because there's two different processes. Up here, they're asking you this question, is what part of? So when you're seeing the is what part of, that kind of tells you right away we're making a fraction. I think it's a clue. Okay? Is what part of, that means make a fraction. This one is 48 is how many times as great as. Okay? So right away, I know I need to divide to find that out. So I take my 48, you always take your first big number and divide it by your second number, unless you need to change something, which we don't here. It's just numbers. 48 is how many times as great as 24. You might know this one in your head. But you just take 48 divided by 24. It's kind of like what we talk about with the days and stuff. So 24 times 2 would be 48. So 48 is 2 times as great as 24. That's just a reminder of the comparing. This is comparing. And the way you do comparing is by dividing. But up here, this is finding the part of something, and you do that by making a fraction. Okay? Do your best. Call me if you have any questions.